Welcome, everyone. I'm Michael Orwig, and this is the Wizard's Chest. With me today is author and SuperMom, Gina Fontaine. This is Gina's latest book, You Are a Supermom. Now, to begin your story, that wasn't the original title, was it?
No, it was
Because
not.
rarely do women ever think of us as being a supermom. In fact, normally, we're never considered enough, are we? So what was
Absolutely.
your original title?
My original title, great question, was I Am Not a Supermom.
But during the course of the book,
And then I reread it, and also a friend of mine said, the universe doesn't know not. You don't even need to have the word not in your title, because you are a supermom. And I reread the book from a different perspective of not being hard on myself, and I realized you have faced some incredible challenges, Gina, and you have done the best that you can, and so you are a supermom. And I used the word you instead of I because I wanted to connect the idea that all moms, all women for that matter, are supermoms.
isn't it true that virtually every mother is still going to do the best they can with what they know at that moment in time? That's how
true.
we're all programmed, basically.
Yep.
You're not going to go, well, maybe I ought to do this because this would really suck. No, you're not going to do that. And your book talks an awful lot about myths, and parents parent very differently than when I was having kids in my 20s. Granted, it was a long time ago. But we parent the way we were parented. My mother was born in the 30s. Oh my goodness, how things have changed since then.
Yeah.
I see my grandkids. I have 10 grandkids now, and the current generation of parents have to deal with all of the electronics.
Oh, yes.
We never had any of that within the parenting. But a lot of your story is about the journey parents have to go through to figure out what works for them.
Yeah.
Now, in your instance, you started off with, I'm going to do everything because that's what society said. I'm going to multitask. I'm going to do everything. I'm last. The kids are first.
Yep.
Where do you think that ever came from?
Well, I mean, without putting religion into this, I mean,
No,
in
it's-
Christianity, I mean, it is touted that being selfless, putting everyone else before yourself is the way. That is the way of the saints. That's the way of the martyrs. And I realized at a certain point, I don't want to be a martyr. I want to be whole, healthy, complete, and fully Gina. And Gina in all aspects of life, not just I'm a mom, because I feel like so many of us moms lose our identity to that word mom, and we forget that we're also a friend and a daughter and maybe a wife and all these different identities, an employee, a business owner, and taking all of that, and it's not just I'm Gina and I'm a mom and that's my full identity.
That's your personality, the identity, the whole shebang. That's everything has to come through that. And you found that not necessarily to be true, but it took you how long? How long was that journey? 10 years probably?
Yeah, it really wasn't until I got divorced in 2017. At that point, I had been married for 14 years. And leading up to that, probably 5 years leading up to that, I knew I wasn't happy. I knew that there was something stirring inside of me that wasn't fulfilled. But marriage is for life. You stick through the good times, the bad times. And that was my thinking was, okay, we're going through a rough phase here. And in the meantime, I'm really sacrificing who I am and my happiness as well. And just being the best mom that I could be. And at a certain point during that period of time, I was working full time. And I felt like oh, I have reached it. Like, I got the full-time job, all the kids are in school, and I'm balancing it all. And I wasn't. I was miserable. I had more health problems in that year of full-time employment and being a mom of 3 kids in grade school. They just racked up over the year. I gained weight. I had TMJ. I was on depression medications, and I thought, this isn't living. And yet, by society standards, I had hit the good government job. I was in a leadership role, and I had made it. As my family was so in praise of me, and yet it only took me a year to discover, oh, this isn't it.
Now, one of the fascinating concepts that we're learning with unity consciousness and different things more and more, I can only love another to the extent that I love myself.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of the message that you have for the mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Start back with that self. If you practice self-love,
Mm-hmm.
you're not selfish. You're just starting from within.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a particular issue in an area, whatever it may be, let's just say, I know I would be the only one in the country, but let's say I have a financial issue, an
Mm-hmm.
issue of lack, and I'm constantly complaining about money, short on money, and my wife's, you're
Mm-hmm.
spending too much, and the kids want this, and the kid, constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas if you were coming from a level of abundance,
Mm-hmm.
you're creating 2 entirely different realities within the quantum field.
Yeah.
And that's the fascinating thing that you found out
Mm-hmm.
for yourself by what you were creating when all of a sudden you took a step back and you went, this
Mm-hmm.
ain't working. And
Mm-hmm.
your story within that, how did you come to that epiphany? I mean, just were you at rock bottom at the end of that year where you finally had to do a personal reassess?
Oh, the year of full-time employment, that was when I started my entrepreneurial journey, and I decided, well, no better time than the present. I quit the job. I started a new job that I ended up being released from 2 months into my tenure. I was teaching at a college. And at that point, I thought, well, this is a good time to pursue all those things. Pregnancy fitness was my passion at the time, because I knew as a mom, I didn't feel like I received the care and respect as a mother. Like, they put all the attention in the hospital on the baby and the baby's well-being, and the moms are kind of ignored.
But you came across something within that, within your children, because it was
Mm-hmm.
able to show a different dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Was it your third that you were doing different music and that you'd already reached your state of peace
Mm-hmm.
within that for the pregnancy? Tell us that story
Yeah.
versus Miles and your firstborn and many of the other much more challenging aspects that happened with Miles.
Yeah. My first pregnancy was a surprise, and I was just determined to be a badass and do everything. Still teach the classes, the fitness classes.
You're
still
going
do
full bore.
Full on. Second one, much the same. And then I noticed with her, she was colicky, and I swore I'd never have 3 months of constant crying again. And it was a theory I had that maybe if I was calmer next time I have a baby, maybe that would transfer.
So this was your second child, which was your daughter,
Mm-hmm.
was the one that was colicky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And baby 3, it was before I found out I was pregnant. Probably before I was even pregnant. I enrolled in a restorative yoga teacher training course. And that shifted everything for me. It took this wild horse on the loose, always busy doing. If I wasn't at the gym teaching classes or training clients, I was at home cleaning and managing children. And my back was in so much pain. And I went to a Mother's Day healing restorative yoga class, and that was it. At the end of the class, I asked the teacher, how do I do this? I want to do what you're doing. And she said, well, you're in luck. I'm having a training in a few months. I signed up, and the very day that the training began, I found out I was pregnant. I had an appointment with the doctor, and the training was right after that. I found out I was pregnant. I was like, wow. And the training was 9 months. So it was perfect. At the end of the training period, I think I gave birth a week later. And I spent so much time in restoration, restorative yoga. You'll lay in a pose for up to 20 minutes. And I finally got snippets of feelings of peace. And that feeling, made me more aware of the explosive side of me, the volcano Gina that just spouts off. And then it was when I started working with a business coach. This was down the road, maybe 3 years after I gave birth, or maybe less. Yeah, 3 or 4 years. And he gave me an analogy of taking that fiery volcano, Gina, and turning her into an open field. And I started to learn to spread my energy instead of being so forceful and directive. And it showed up everywhere in my parenting. It showed up in my work and my business, my marriage. It was just like, if we just work hard enough through this, we'll get along. If we hire enough therapists, we'll figure this marriage out. And it's that mentality, I think, that we all have in the Western world, is work hard and you'll make it.
It's I was raised Presbyterian. It was very much a Presbyterian ethic of I'm going to do hard work and I'm going to beat this reality into submission. Is in essence the gist of it. Now, one concept I want to mention to you, because back to the pregnancy, one thing I've introduced in different books was the concept that everything going on with the mother energetically is imprinted on the child.
Yeah.
Father stuff is imprinted as well, but the easy one is, let's say you're 23, 24, and early in a career, finances are an issue or whatever. All of that stress from the finance, whatever, becomes imprinted with the lack concepts and stress around money or whatever, just because mom and dad had it. I mean, that's just one example. But my stepdaughter, Erin, is a musician, and what she did with her son is she played all kinds of music and could just feel. She's a yoga instructor, and she's just much along the same lines that you're talking about. But she trained through the pregnancies as a yogi, or the yogic tradition would train. But because of her love of music, she would play all kinds of different music to Lucan when he was in the womb and everything else. And little kids love music.
Yeah, right.
From the very beginning. And it's such a eye-opener for mothers to try to understand that if something's occurring outside of, as an example with the kids, outside of where the kids are, energy is energy and everything is connected. So pay attention to all of what's going on with your state of being. And a lot of your myths have to do with doing.
Yeah.
Whereas all of your epiphany has to do about states of being.
Yeah.
Play with that one a little bit. What was some of the most stressful multitasking aspects of the myths that you found as a early mom versus later mom?
Well, I used to pride myself in being a multitasker. I can change a diaper and talk on the phone and tell my toddler to go to timeout all at the same time, and I was really proud of the fact that I could do all that. And if I was at work, I could be, working on something on the computer and typing up a report over here, and then answering questions from a patron all at the same time, and that was so wonderful. And then I started to see research coming in that your brain actually can't optimally work when you're multitasking. And the kicker was when I did an exercise of, you write numbers 1 through 26 on one column, and then you write, I am a master multitasker. You do those separately. And then on the other side, you write 1, I, 2, A, and you go back and forth between counting and spelling. And I think my time was twice as long. And I thought, okay, this multitasking thing maybe, and it's like an addiction, because I still catch myself with 100 tabs open and I'm checking notifications and writing a blog and doing it all, and then I say no. And in my book I talk about the 3 big tasks and picking what are 3 things that are going to get me closer to my higher purpose today. And then assigning a time frame, like I'm going to spend an hour on this, 30 minutes on this, and when that time comes, shutting off everything else and saying, all right, now it's time for this.
What you discovered is what's called focus versus a goal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to focus, and I would even offer to you not to put a time limit on it.
Mm-hmm.
You find the joy,
Yeah.
the excitement within the focus,
Mm-hmm.
and when that starts waning,
Mm.
you go to the next task.
Yeah.
That's a different way, because I did notice
Mm-hmm.
when we go against time,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this only, you could have been right in the sweet spot of
Mm-hmm.
getting something done.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like to put an artificial limit to it.
Yeah.
You
makes
you
sense.
just feel the energy waning,
Mm-hmm.
and we go, oh,
Yeah.
we just,
And that's one thing I didn't say is also assigning an emotion to
Mhm.
I'm going
I
to
like that.
write and it's going to be with enthusiasm. And so when that enthusiasm starts to fizzle, say,
that's your
all
key.
right, tomorrow, or I'm going to go take a walk and come back to this and see if the enthusiasm is there.
I love the concept of following your excitement.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the main ones that was a Bashar teachings channeled by Daryl Anka, and I love that concept of my job is to follow my excitement during the day within
Mhm.
every choice.
Yeah.
And so much of the concepts that are brought out in different, shall we say, 3D parenting models
Mm-hmm.
incorporates time,
Mm-hmm.
very left-brained, outlined the to-do list and all of
Yeah.
these different things. Whereas I love the concept that Bashar gives that if you're following your excitement all day
Mm-hmm.
with every choice until it wanes
Yeah.
and you make a different choice,
Mm-hmm.
if something doesn't get done at the end of the day, it wasn't important.
Right.
I just, there's that, it's just
Yes.
such an epiphany to be able to say, it's okay not to.
Yeah.
And you really came into that one on in your own.
Well, yeah, and so much that I mean, I know that I've worked with different business coaches, and I was in a group program, and it was kind of like if you don't finish, because she used the 3 tasks too, but it was like it kind of felt like your punishment for not being efficient is you're going to be up later than you want to be finishing the task because you didn't focus. And I thought, well, I don't like that. That feels
It's
inauthentic.
a guilt trip.
Yeah, I'm guilt tripping myself because I didn't get something done that clearly it wasn't meant to, because the energy to do it wasn't there.
Yeah. We understand, at least on a mental level,
Mm-hmm.
it's about living it. But being present in the moment is
Yeah.
the only moment you have.
Yeah.
Why not focus fully and give it your full attention in that moment?
Mm.
I love the concept of working with a focus because time is taken out of the equation. Most people have no idea how we compete against time
Mm-hmm.
when we use it as a goal.
Yeah.
And you alluded to it very, very correctly that we create our own guilt trips if something's not completed
Mm-hmm.
in a particular amount of time. And
Yeah.
one of the great understandings for everybody is to understand the synchronicities and that the universe has a timing.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah.
because our ego mind has a particular time it's thinking of,
Mm-hmm.
does not mean the universe, which is aligning itself
Yeah.
to what you wish to have, to your intentions and everything else along those. Allow the universe to help. And that's one of our
Mm-hmm.
favorite sayings from the metaphysical side of things, basically, is the universe is aligning itself for
Mm-hmm.
my benefit for this particular task.
Yeah.
Then it's up to us to be in flow. And what part of your myths of parenting ever has to do with being in flow? Let's talk about some of the myths, and you can take it from there. All right, myth 1. Good moms always put their kids' needs first. Now, that's the myth.
Yep.
How would you change the perspective?
Well, I mean, you cannot give from an empty cup.
Good.
You've got to fill your cup, so to speak, up so that you can give. And unfortunately, so many of us have subscribed to the selfless model of living, that I get so fulfilled by helping others. And what I see is, a lot of women with autoimmune disorder or even cancer. I mean, it's like, how long did you have to deny yourself pleasure? Because it is about pleasure. And women are like, we're made for pleasure. We have so many sensory, systems that men don't have. And yet it's almost like, well, a good mom denies herself. She sacrifices so that her kids can have what she couldn't have.
And why not have both?
And why not have both? Right. Because I think what your kids start to see when you show up fulfilled and you're doing the things that you think are fun, that maybe they don't necessarily, my kids wouldn't come to a drum circle with me, but I go. I go and I have my fun. I used to try to take them when they were little kids, and they would stand at the door saying, "Let me out of here."
Did they do yoga with you?
My daughter a little bit when she was younger, in that sweet age of 8 to 10, and and then that dropped off when she became a teenager, tween and teen. And I fantasized about all that. I'm going to have a daughter that does yoga with me, and we're going to lead retreats together when we get older, and maybe that'll still happen. But at the end of the day, I tell people, like, you don't necessarily get the kids that you want, but you do get the kids that you need. And while I think it would be grand fun to have kids that enjoy doing all the things that I do, they have taught me a whole lot about resilience and seeing other perspectives, and realizing that, just because I'm mom doesn't mean I'm always right. Like, I can listen and learn from listening to their perspective.
The more that you play with, everything is just an interesting perspective. There's all of a sudden no right, wrong, good, bad.
Right.
And it's a fun one to play with. The that concept of always putting everyone else first, that's not unity consciousness. That's still in separation within that. Now, your second myth.
Yeah.
Moms are master multitaster. We've already been talking a little bit about that. Being a mom is tough is the third myth.
Yeah, and there's probably a day that doesn't go by that I don't see something on social media that, here's why my life is so tough. Here's why being a mom is tough. And I've been there, like, in the throes of trying to figure out single motherhood. And at a certain point, I realized I'm fulfilling this story that I'm telling everybody. And I'm looking for evidence all around me that this is why it's so tough. Let me show you. Let me tell you. I'll one-up you. My story is so much tougher than yours. And then it becomes these gatherings of moms who are commiserating, and instead of co-creating and celebrating life. And I started to realize that I can create the consciousness. I can say, you know what? Today I choose easy. Today's going to be fun and easy, and when I do this mundane task of cleaning the bathroom, I'm going to make it fun. I'm going to put on my favorite music and sing at the top of my lungs. And there, that task that's usually tough and draining just became fun because you infused it with something different.
It's a lot of fun when you change the narrative that you're telling yourself.
Yeah.
We live with our belief structures, whatever they may be.
Yeah.
Most of them are not in alignment with your truth. and that's what you've discovered.
Yeah.
Most of them come from this area of society, that area of society, parents, religion, community, school, blah, blah, blah. All of these perspectives that people have said, do this and you're going to be accepted in society. And gee, everybody wants to be accepted. I want to be able to go out with my moms and chat. Okay? And you go out there and this mother's talking only about what's gone wrong.
Right.
And so this one chimes in with hers and on down the line instead of how many of them actually say what goes right?
Right.
Or how they change to perspective or and that's what we're talking on with coming in with a new perspective on how to work within the quantum field.
Right.
And one of my favorite subjects is an education system that actually teaches how thoughts create. Wasn't taught to me.
No, not to me.
When did you first start learning and how thoughts create and aspects of law of attraction? When did it come in for you?
Probably middle 2000s. I started following Notes from the Universe. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. And he sends little notes to your inbox every single day, and a lot of it's about thoughts create things. Thoughts create your reality, and Marianne Williamson, reading her books, introduced
Esther Hicks was one of my favorites. She had a lot of the law of attraction material, and she and her husband really did a great job with a lot of that. Obviously, The Secret came out in the early 2000s, was very well received. And yet, the concept, the simpleness, what you put out is what you get out, get back. It's all about your state of being, your state of consciousness, which is a combination of your thought and emotion, which is then creating action at the same time. Obviously, we need action. We're living in a physical reality.
Yeah.
But it all starts with your belief. So if somehow you were taught X, whatever X may be, you're going to run around within the quantum reality and validate that belief.
Yeah.
So being a mom's tough. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Let me know how that works out for you.
Yeah.
It is. It is constantly a self-fulfilling prophecy. And what did you break out within that? How did you break away from that? Just changing the perspective, or what else did you do with yours?
Yeah, mindset, shifting your mindset to recognize, I am going to that negative, dark place of self-doubt and self-deprecation and that makes things so much harder than when I start to look at, but look at what I did do. And same with disciplining kids. You can focus on what they didn't do, or you can say, let's celebrate where you moved the needle forward today.
And most kids are 90% good.
Yeah.
There's a 10% factor in there somewhere. But you run. And you are an insane woman if you go run Red Rocks. I don't know for the rest of you guys. The Red Rocks is an amphitheater on the northwest side of town. It's an incredible music amphitheater, and you have stairs.
Lots of
them. And it's like a mountain, and you run the stairs.
Like 200 of them, yeah.
What did you do for that? Because you used to run it, and it would just be
grueling,
exhausting.
Yeah, absolutely grueling. Because I would time myself because I'm very competitive.
And what was your time? Early on.
My best times were like 1:09 running up. And one day, I think I was exploring these concepts of let it be easy, let it be joyous. I was also working with a teacher who was teaching me about relaxing my abs as a stress relieving tool. And in fitness, it's all about, tighten your abs and suck it in. And so I did both. I stood there at the bottom of the stairs and I said, okay, today I choose easy. And I put my hands on my belly and I said, and I choose to soften and flow up these stairs. And what I recognized was I was so aware that every time my body would start to clench and tighten, I would just let it go and let it go and let it go. And I realized, and I did that on my second ascent, and usually your time would drop each time you do it. I would do 3 or 4 times each time. And it was right on par with my first time. And I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. And where else could I apply that in my life where I'm struggling? And at the time, my teenager was a big source of struggle. And realizing that, always having to manipulate the pieces on the board, so to speak, to make them to my liking was exhausting me, which is the next myth. Being a mom is exhausting. And I realized I have to start setting healthy boundaries and not let his junk into my field. The daily insults of, you're such a bad mom and you don't care about me, and realize that's his stuff, and I choose not to let that in to my field. And because we have, a system, it's, think of it like plumbing, and there can be leaks and there can be clogs. And I started to become very aware of where the leaks and the clogs were.
Your older son was quite the journey, a very, very difficult journey that we don't want to wish on any family. No. I mean, we're talking about calling the police multiple times, being on first name with the police.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Over aspects, and this was after the divorce, and it really brought out. But he's 18 now, has his own apartment, and he was a soul, obviously, that has come into a lifetime for what I call the new earth, not the old paradigms, because he definitely did not fit.
Yes. Oh, I've had even psychic friends say he's never even experienced Earth. This is his first Earth lifetime, and he's just confused. So.
Well, it's very common. I mean, it's very common. A lot of high-frequency kids have come in, and they get into the level of negativity that we are moving out of.
Yeah.
And they go, this is crazy. Who on earth? Who on earth would actually choose a lifetime to come here? One concept within that I'll offer to you is many people see this as, it certainly is a lesson planet, but also it's a planet of mastery. Because if you can come in and master these lower vibrational frequencies, not have it affect you, move and keep your higher vibration, you are becoming a master of limitations. High frequency souls come in for that level of, if you want to call it a test, to a certain extent, of course it is a test, but we're not here because it's we're being punished per se. No, we're here at an amazing time, and within everything going on, holding the vibration of the higher space is what we have to do. Be the love. Own that, no matter what goes on. But there's got to take a lot of flexibility during this time frame because we're dealing with so much change.
Yeah.
How have you handled your change? Because you've had a pretty good roller coaster going on here.
It's continuing. Because I'm getting ready to change my living situation, and I thought I was putting my feet down onto settled ground, and it's kind of like, okay, now I'm going to go back out and be a single mom, single adult household again, and I have those reels in the back of my head of how it was before, and I really try to just say, and that's how it was, and moving forward, it's not going to be a struggle. There's an abundant flow of life, and I can't even pay attention to the 3D world struggles anymore. It's like, when you're ready, come, let's experience the fullness. And in my book, I talk about fullness being all of it. I mean, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. Just because you're going through a tough time, so to speak, it doesn't mean you have, like, I guess one way where I part ways with the law of attraction is like, sometimes you're just going to feel down and you have to love that little girl or that little boy in you that is feeling sad, and acknowledge that, you know what, today's just one of those days where you're feeling a little bit low. Instead of, I feel like sometimes law of attraction is like, oh, don't go there, don't feel that, like, go out and jump rope or go out and feel something different that's more joyous. And I will allow, like yesterday I had a day where I just let myself feel some uncomfortable emotions, and I let it be okay. And I think when we start judging ourselves and saying it's not okay to be depressed, it's not okay to be angry.
But that you make the big point. We judge all too quickly in our society. Mm-hmm. We're conditioned, taught, beat into us to judge that. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't mean you have to wallow in it. Mm-hmm. How long are you going to stay in that particular vibration? Mm-hmm. And then there's another aspect to it that I wanted to mention to you, and that's so many of these children are empaths. Yeah, yeah. And with your kids, do they pick up energies from other people?
Oh, yeah. Yes, my middle child definitely, I mean, school just wipes her out. She comes home and the first thing she wants to do is lay down, shut the door, and cut all communication
out. Do you do
out.
any kind of a cleanse with her when she comes home?
That's a good idea.
My good friend Alita, who I wrote a chapter about, and we've been friends for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. Her daughters, all empaths, when they came home, it would be basically almost stop them at the door and do basically a little bit of a cleansing ritual. And Alita had the capability of seeing the different energies in the field, but you can feel them. Yeah. You can do the same thing just off a feel, or a little sage. Yeah. For clearing or whatever, in lieu of that, different grounding, made. But these kids within that, along that same line, think that energy is theirs.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And especially the younger, they really can't. They have a hard time separating.
Well, and I don't think I was conscious of a term anxiety when I was 12 years old. But my youngest child started talking about anxiety when he was 9, and I thought, wow, where is this coming from? Why are they feeling all this anxiety? And they even, I mean, they have little techniques that I think they teach in school even, but I've taught them about tapping and breathing, and they're more aware now of how to get control of it, but having the understanding that it's not always it's not yours.
It's another one of the ones that I'd love to, that should be taught. So many of these new kids coming in are definitely pick up a lot of stuff from other people as empaths and everything. Yeah. Now, we're about running out of time, but I wanted to talk one last bit about the final story. The final, if you could kind of wrap up and give the other parents a good idea of really what you found has worked well for you that they could perhaps employ in their stuff.
Never read a parenting book again. Well, really learn to read yourself and connect with yourself on a daily basis. Like, if that's meditation, let it be meditation. It might be taking a quiet walk outside and connecting with nature. Everybody has a different way, but something that's nourishing to you and helps you connect with what's important to you on a daily basis. And also, I mean, I know some of you have younger children and you can't necessarily say, don't bother me right now. My kids know the morning time, like there's a certain period of time where I don't want to be bothered. But find that time, create that time, that if it's nap time, if it's after they go to bed, or you set your alarm 15 minutes early. But really, I feel like when you start the day, and it for a lot of parents, I think it's a race. It's like, okay, alarm went off. Now I'm racing to, get all the things in place. And like, that's going to set the tone for your day. Then your day becomes a race with the clock. And,
wonderful.
Yeah.
How can people get in touch with you, and how can they find your book? Does Amazon have
Amazon
are
has that.
SuperMom?
If you want a autographed copy and a 30-day trial to my SuperMom Club, which is my community for moms to help them slow down so they can take time to connect with themselves. I have my website, ginafontaine.com. I have a SuperMom book tab where you can buy the book.
And I'll put all of that in the banner underneath the video and everything
Thank
for
you,
you.
Michael.
Is it okay if they call you by phone, or is it easier to call you by, email you? Is what's best for you?
Yeah, they can email me, Gina@ginafontaine.com.
This is the best way to contact
Yeah,
you.
or just fill out the contact form on the website. And I have a freebie there on the website that you can download about movement and activity and making it fun. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm Michael Orwick, Gina Fontaine. This is the Wizard's Chest.